So welcome and good evening, and I'm very grateful for you all joining me with Jung's red book that is quite heavy, quite challenging, and we will start at 8 o'clock, which is in 4 minutes from now. The idea is not to read the whole book, which is a whole Bible, but I sorted out quotations from Jung's red book. And here, my grandfather's clock is counting 8 Israel time. Good evening once again. I hope you're joining one by one, and we'll be very glad to have you here. The idea is to focus on several quotations from Jung's red book, and to try to figure out and understand the text, which is quite condensed, and this is the challenge, and to translate the text into practical coaching understanding, or in different terms, how can we use Jung's wisdom through the red book to our practical coaching practice. So once again, welcome everybody. We're going to start in a couple minutes. One more time, I will explain that the idea of today's evening is to read together several quotations that I sorted out from Jung's red book, and to find out what are its practical implications. Meanwhile, I would like to update those of you who joined in. How many people do we have? Oh, we have 12 people. It's half the world. Great. Thank you for joining in. So let me only update you that by October 14th, we are starting our second generation of the Jungian Coaching Online. This program was upgraded into an online program due to the unfortunate Corona pandemic. And we are entering our second generation. The class is almost full. We are still accepting last moment newcomers, and we will start on October 14th with the 4 days of the first module. What is very exciting in this first module is that already 15 people that graduated the first module in July will join the Sunday evening with their coaches. And by this, we will launch the big first class, the 20 students that will go for the 6 months qualification to become a Jungian coach. Another activity that is very fascinating and exciting is on the 22nd of September. The 22nd of September, I'm giving a marathon of supervision to graduates of the Jungian Coaching School that applied to get supervision from me. The idea is to run a 20-minute supervision with 4 people that will fill up 1 hour and 20 minutes. Already there are several volunteers who handed up to me a detailed paragraph, what they want to be supervised on. And I will use the Jungian coaching tools within the supervision, as I did previously successfully with Avi Goren-Bar. So you're most welcome to write down a note. We will send you also a publication about it. Supervision with Avi, with Jungian tools on actual practicing on the 22nd of September. Please write to me where you're coming from now. Please write to me your comments about my lecturing and about the quotations of the red book, so that we have an interaction as we have been doing the last almost 2 years. My God. And the last announcement is that we are very much close to starting to launching our Jungian Coaching Graduates Club. this club will enable people that will join in to benefit from free activities, interactions between graduates, supervision with me, reading Jungian texts together, lectures by Jungian analysts, not me, to expand the knowledge via other scholars, interactions between graduates. You will very soon get a questionnaire, what are your interests are in such a club, and we will design the club according to your expectations. So, good evening, everybody. Danny is beside me. And we want to start, it's 8 o'clock. Can we? Bravo. Okay. So 16 people, and we hope that more of you will come. I don't know if you had the chance to really grab this book. This is a very sentimental book that I got from a past Greek lover of mine that dedicated this book for my birthday. At that time, which was for about 15 years ago, I didn't even think about using this book, reading this book, and elaborating on it. Now I'm very deep in that. This book was written in between 1913 to 1916, when Jung was just before his 40 years old, after he was kicked out brutally by Freud from the Psychoanalytic Association. And if you just realize the script that you can see here, you see that it's written with ink. You see that, don't worry, I will not splash it twice. So you see that it's written in Jung's handwriting. You see that here he had lines that he himself was noting, and the book is a kind of a meditation filled up with drawings, with mandalas. All you have to do is just, for example, here, and it's a very fascinating book. Now, there is something very crucial that you need to take under consideration. Jung was doing actually two mental assignments by writing this book. First of all, he developed the technique of active imagination. And he was so preoccupied that this autonomous, it was much before the Gestalt of Fritz Perls, that did the empty chair dialogue between one and the projected internal image, which is a well-known Gestalt practice. But in 1913, 80 years before Fritz Perls, Jung is dialoguing with his own self on a flow, on association, on a trance, without any restriction. As a matter of fact, he felt that sometimes he became nuts. And let's not forget that we are dealing with a psychiatrist who worked with psychotic people, and he understood and he saw it from first line what psychosis means. And while writing fluent association with his own self, he is discovering what I look now as a clinical psychologist with a lot of knowledge at such profoundness, such wisdom, such life philosophy from considerably quite a young person. That is to say, we are meeting a real genius. So, speaking with his own self, active imagination as a new technique, and because he felt that it was really provocative, and taking under consideration that he was kicked up from the legitimate psychoanalytic association, he decided not to publish this book, and it was only published in 2009. How it was published, you can read in the Wikipedia, you can go to the United States and visit the library and the center. And I want to welcome all the 30 people that join in. I will not repeat everything, but before I go into reading to you and applying a presentation for you with the quotation from the Red Book, I will just summarize what we've been talking in the last 6 minutes. One, we are starting the second generation of the online Jungian Coaching School by October 14th. 4 days, first module, second generation. Actually, half of the class has already complied this first module by past July. So they are waiting for the 14th of October to join the other part of the class, and together we will continue for 6 months for March to receive the desired diploma to become a Jungian coach. 2, we have a webinar live on the 22nd of September under the title of Supervision with Avi. Already we have 8 volunteers, out of which I will sort out 4 that will get supervision from me on their coaching processes with coaches. They deliver the paragraph with the topic that they want to discuss in the supervision, and the supervision will be based on using the Jungian tools. So I think that all you graduates are simply interested in seeing this marathon of 4 supervision. Each supervision is 20 minutes, and thereafter I will open it to the public. Please write down questions and comments. Danny is sitting nearby me, and he will deliver to me, hello Danny, your questions. And the last item that I mentioned before we start with the quotation is we are starting a Jungian coaching club for our graduates. Very soon you will get a questionnaire, detailed one, that will sort out what are your interests in becoming members of the Jungian Coaching Club. Ladies and gentlemen, I will share a presentation with you. Hold on a second. I hope that you see what I see. Practical insights from the Red Book. Everybody sees? Bravo. So, the book is divided into 2 sub-books. One is Liber Primus, and the other one, the second part, we will reach it later in the lecture or the dialogue. It depends how much you will be interacting with me. The first quotation that I want to read: you live your life fully if you also live what you have never yet lived, says Jung. You see that the text is condensed, and we have to open up and try to understand keywords and what does it mean. So it's about expansion. It's about when a client comes for consultation for a coaching process with something that he or she never did. I've never done it before. Jung is encouraging us to embrace what we never did before. In his words, never yet lived. It's about expansion. It's about moving out from your comfort zone. It's about new learnings, to dare and learn new things. It's about going into the unknown. You live your life fully. You can live your life. But if you want to live your life fully, try to expand your boundaries. Try to go to where you don't go. If you're a Jungian coach or a Jungian analyst, this brings up so many practical associations. For example, dreams. Dreams belong to the never yet lived. last night I had a dream, I rarely dream these days, that I am staying at a friend's in Athens. Some of you know her, Steffi. And she lives in a small apartment with her partner to life, another lady, but there is there a refugee stranger that nobody can communicate with. And he has a parrot or a big, big bird. And there is a problem with the electricity there, and I'm visiting and I'm trying to interact, to translate. Weird dream that I will not analyze now, but if you go to this quotation, Avi, you can live your life fully if you will also live what you have never lived. So try to understand this situation that you've never been with. It's about innovating, surprising yourself. Any questions or comments about this quotation, Danny, before we go on? Jung writes, I lived into the depths, and the depths began to speak. What is this depth? You see, we are neurotics, and because of the telecommunication, because of the cellular, because of the TV, because of all this media, our intention from the moment we open our eyes is outward. And Jung wants us to balance our daily experiences by introspecting, by increasing our awareness inward. Unlike meditation, speaking about mindfulness, this is a differential diagnosis. Unlike meditation, unlike vipassana, when you learn to let go of your thoughts, to get away from your thoughts, to flow in this space that you are without awareness, but with the awareness to the moment, to the here and now, in the lived into the depths, and the depths began to speak, Jung is recommending to us to listen to our unconscious and by definition to the irrational arguments that the depths is speaking to us. For Jung, the depths and the self that is located in the center of the depths is the actualization of the God image. Mind you, he was a son of a priest. And this is where he began to understand that when he connects to his own self in the depths, he is listening to his God image. So we are here getting the gift of the unconscious, the gift of the self-God, the gift of the irrational thinking, the gift of awareness, introspection, and unlike meditation, to grab and try to understand the significance of the depths. Any comments, any interaction? Maybe you guys are shocked by the wisdom. It's not me, I'm just translating Jung. Nevertheless, Stella Rapti, Kalispera Sasagapi, Stella, could the depths be the dreams? Obviously, yes. Obviously, yes. So maybe I will expand here, Stella. The depth transmits its contents through dreams, art activities, fluent writing, associative writing, improvisation. Any improvisation by breaking the known will bring out the material of the depths. We have lots of quotations. He who possesses the world, but not its image, possesses half the world. Since his soul is poor and had nothing, the wealth of the soul exists in images. First of all, as an art expressive therapist, I get oxygen. Wallah, as we say in my country, wow, the image brings meaning and life to our world. Jung speaks here about the power of the image and the symbol. Here you have a rationale for the Jungian coaching tools and for using expressive arts in Jungian coaching. The power of the image, I will explain soon. Another recommendation by Jung is the power of the image is because it is condensed with data. Let me explain. Every icon, every image is a condensation of information. When you look at the traffic sign, stop, it tells you if you don't stop, there will be or might be a car accident and a crash and this. You have to obey and so and so. But this comes in a one single sign. So the power of the image is that you need to decipher it. It's like an antibiotic or like any nectar, very condensed, that is inviting you and your client to decipher and see what is there. And this is the power that comes from the unconscious in a condensated way. Plus, the images are the cousins of the imagination. So the more you use images through collage, through pictures, through guided fantasies in practical terms, the more you get condensed information from your client's unconscious. One of the easiest technique that you can apply with your clients is to say to your client, simply close your eyes and what do you see? Metaphor, what do you see? Most people, when they feel relaxed, they will see something that by definition is not necessarily coherent or corresponds to the topic or the issue that they are talking about. But the distance between what you're talking about on the conscious level and the image that bursts out will give you the added value of the innovative perspective towards the topic. So let's go back to Jung, and then there is a question. Hold on a second. He, the person who possesses the world, which means possesses the rational world, the data, the facts. Think about clients that they are stuck with data and facts. And not the image, possesses half of the world. Since his soul, the irrational part, is poor and has nothing, the richness, the wealth of the soul exists in the image. Think about churches, think about synagogues, think about mosques, the images that surround the religious people enrich his or her soul. Now comes a question. Kat Blundy, hello, welcome. Welcome to our circle. Consider joining our school. There can be a depth if we look for it, but there can also be a breadth if we look that way. That could cause an infinite amount of options. This can also be a great challenge, of course. But do I understand you well? Because when Jung speaks about the depths, he speaks about inward. And when you speak about searching what is available on the conscious level, you are an explorer. This is an archetype. We want to use both the external explorer and the internal explorer who dives into the depths. Thank you for your comments. It's enriching everybody. And then Jung says, but the small, the narrow, and banal is not nonsense, but one of both of the essence of the Godhead. We have many fairy tales and stories about the fool, the king who is walking nuded, and the little child shouts, hey, the king is naked. A redhead that goes innocently into the forest and meets the wolf. All those innocent, naive, little, marginal, orphan, miserable children. What is a child in symbolism? Helpless, small potential that is promised to grow. Nice definition for a child. Jung stands behind the importance of the narrow, the small, and the banal, and the nonsense. Tip of the tongue. And he says that in this marginal, in this small, dwells the God's wisdom. What is, how can you use this wisdom in a practical way in your studio as an expressive therapist or as a coach? Look at what people did not mean to tell you. What is hiding behind? What little details were not taken under consideration? By the way, Jungian psychology is called analytic psychology. Analytic from analysis. When you analyze, you meet the small, the narrow, and the banal. So if we use Gestalt terms, figure and ground, something that is small, narrow, and banal, nonsense, will be in the ground while the client is bringing the topic on the figure. But when you listen to the narrative, when you listen to the flow of verbal report of your client, do heed, do pay attention to the small details that sometimes the client doesn't want to put on the figure, on the focus. There lies the Godhead. I think we are ready. Do we have any comments? No. Okay, bravo. So we are still in the Liber Primus. We are in another chapter. This is on the left, a mandala made by Jung. You can see how meditative and focusing inward this gentleman, this genius is. And the text says, as a man, you are part of mankind, and therefore you have a share in the whole mankind, as if you were the whole of mankind. When I read this quotation, I couldn't hold thinking about the corona pandemic. We became part of mankind, unfortunately, through catastrophe. And now when we betrayed nature and nature takes revenge, and we have terrible fires all over the world, and we have floods all over the world, and we have corona all over the world, we get to have a very physical demonstration of Jung's text that as a man, you are part of mankind, and therefore you have a share in the whole of mankind, and therefore you are the mankind in his holistic appearance. My friends, what does it mean? Where does Jung point out in this quotation? Jung takes us to the collective unconscious. When a baby is born now somewhere in the world, and the nurse that is giving birth to him holds a mask on her face, and the grandma is with a mask, and the uncle is with a mask, and the papa is with a mask. This mask is becoming a collective unconscious persona that is bequeathed, passes, and embedded in the collective unconscious of a whole generation. And Jung understood it, that we are not egocentric animals that live in their individuation and individuality, but that we belong to communities and communities belong to the whole mankind. But there is another practical aspect in this wisdom that corresponds to the psychology of organizations and corporations. As a Jungian coach, when you are invited to intervene in a firm, in a company, in an organization, Jung tells you, don't look at the executive as an individual. Look at the executive as a part of mankind, of the company. And therefore, he shares a whole psychology of mankind. And this is what I call in Jungian coaching the economic model. That is to say, if you know the psychology of one individual in the organization, you understand the psychology of the whole organization. You understand the psychology of the shadow of the person and the shadow of the organization, the femininity of the person and the femininity of the organization, because Jung tells us in page 253 in the Red Book that a one individual is part of the whole collective. I really like this quotation. What happens with 30 people? Are there more? 2 more people joining in. I hope they will not withdraw. Nazdarovye, cheers, yasas, yamas, l'chaim. It's not whiskey, it's chai. I've had to recognize that I must submit to what I fear. I must stop here and tell you, the more I read the Red Book, I fell in love with the guy. He's so sincere, so honest. No restrictions, no inhibitions. And no wonder he was not rushing to publish this very intimate wisdom that comes along with amazing drawings that he did. Back to the quotation. I've had to recognize that I must submit to what I fear. Yes, even more, that I must even love what horrifies me. Don't know if I should share with you an intimate, very intimate experience of mine. 2 years ago, I surprisingly went into a heart operation bypass. And you know, these operation rooms are somewhere in the basement, in the cellar of the hospital, 3-4 stories in earth, and the temperature is so low, like a grave. And after the anesthetist is visiting you and so on, inevitably you are by yourself, you are freezing, and you're very lonely, and you have to face your fear. And I said to myself, I did it my way, and I fulfilled the whole life. And now I will turn into a feather, and all the rest is in the hand of my doctors. And if I survive, I will fight. There is a moment of surrendering when you want to face your fear. You cannot face your fear with rejection. It's like falling in love. You go all the way, you don't know the consequences. So I have had to recognize that I must submit, surrender to what I fear. Let's stop here and translate it to very practical issues. Most of you who practice coaching, you know that your clients, one of their reasons to refer to coaching is because they're afraid. She is afraid to open the business. He is afraid to invest money. She is afraid to negotiate. He is afraid from collaborating with a partner. They're afraid to move. They're afraid to expand. They are afraid of competition. They are afraid that maybe their idea is not worthy. There are so many fears that paralyze us. The only way is to surrender to the fear, and you do it by dialoguing with the fear. Those of you who associate with the shadow archetype, I am hugging you and I compliment you because this is it. I always say that there are three sorts of shadow: our inferiority, the fear, weakness, our evil side, and our courage to do something that is immoral. What do you want to tell me, Danny? That Liat Pritzker from Boston. But if your name is Liat, then Shalom. הציטוט הזה מתכתב יפה עם הראשון. Well, what was the first one, my gosh? You live your life fully if you also live what you have never lived yet. Yes. Liat, let me tell you something that, because I want to reinforce and compliment you guys for being involved. One of Jung's wisdom is the paradox. It's called in Heraclitus' philosophy, the Greek philosopher, enantiodromia. I keep saying that, looking at one thing and looking at the other, looking at the opposing. The Gestalt psychology is calling it polarities and claims that the poles are not only antagonistic, but they also complement each other. So we are speaking here about the power of the paradox. If you are fearful, look at the fear in the eyes. So this wisdom is calling for embracing the shadow. And we have in our Jungian coaching, in the first module, a whole technique, how to embrace the shadow, how to refrain from projecting and to hug the shadow, accept the weakness, and paradoxically become strong. I think we are ready for the next quotation. 244. 244, yes. Where am I? If we do not have the depths, how do we have the heights? More of the same. But in practical words, sometimes our clients will refer to us when they had a breakdown, when they were fired, when, especially now in Corona pandemic, people lost their jobs, lost their businesses, and they are in the depths, crashing, frustrated or being furious about falling from the heights into the depths. This quotation tells us that nothing is sustainable. What comes up must go down, steering wheel. We need to accept reciprocity, circulation, and this is the feminine side of the psyche. So Jung understands very well that we cannot appreciate the light when we do not have darkness. We cannot appreciate the heights if we don't allow ourselves to be in the depths. This reminds our graduates of the belly of the whale in the hero quest. And one more quotation from Jung about reciprocity, about mutuality, about the compensatory function. So please remember, when you attend a coachee, don't be afraid when somebody is too high, try to represent the opposite. And this goes also in co-active coaching with the saboteurs and the internal resourcefulness and the reciprocity between power and weakness. Now, this is amazing. I think that Jung here in this quotation relates to the essence of the coaching profession, the essence of coaching profession. And he says, my path is not your path. Therefore, I cannot teach you. The way is within us, but not in gods, nor in teachings, nor in laws. Within us is the way, the truth, and the life. In my new book, An Introduction to Jungian Coaching, that will be sold during October this year, I am speaking about the coaching profession and how it corresponds so much to the Jungian approach. Unlike psychologists, mentors, doctors who hold the wisdom for the client, and where the client needs to be passive and absorb the knowledge, swallow the pills, lie down, not move, and get the X-ray. And then the practitioner comes with the knowledge. In coaching, my path as a coach is not your path, the coachee. Therefore, I cannot, as a coach, teach you. The way within you is not to believe in God or to go studying books and books, or go according to the competencies of the regulations. The truth, the power, your way as a coachee is within you. And this is your life. Isn't it so beautiful? So very beautiful. Yeah. I can stop any moment, but I really like it. Maybe we should do another meeting. So where are we? And how many? I will tell you what other quotations are. There is a quotation that deals with change. There is a quotation that speaks about the persona and what people will say. There is a quotation about the anima and the animus. So early, 1913, 1916, already Jung, in a very, very childish or amateur way, presents to us the idea, the notion of the anima and the animus. There is a quotation that deals with supervision, a quotation that deals with the dream. It's amazing, and I want to consult with Danny. Should we go on with the quotations? Two more. You see, I have a boss. It's good. Yeah. 234. 234. Where is 234? 234. Somewhere here. 249. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Okay, 249. Where am I? Ah, here. One page was hiding. 249. I hope you really accept my human approach. 249, bravo. Yes. Wow. If you give up yourself, oh, this is fantastic. I did a sketch for you on this. If you give up yourself, says Jung, you leave it in others. You look yourself in others. Thereby, you become selfish to others. You need people very much. You're dependent on the other. And therefore, you deceive others. Because when you're so much dependent on the other, inevitably, you have to cheat and lie. Let me explain to you how this goes on the ego self axis, and then we will come back to this quotation. So hold on a second. I will stop sharing for a moment because I want to show you this. You see, this is a person that is connected to his own self. Bravo. This is the conscious level, the unconscious level. This is the ego activities, what a person does every day. And according to the Jungian psychology, the person is connected to his self, and this is called the ego self axis. Now, what happens to a person who is not connected to his self? He is reaching out for what we call, or he calls, soulmate, my body, my best friend. They go together to conferences. They go to have a beer together. They are talking through the night. Slowly, this person becomes dependent on this person who is connected to the self. Very likely, this person will not tolerate for too long such dependency and will cut it out. Then the person gets panic attack. This also goes in marriage and in business partnership. When there is reciprocity, collaboration, and compensation between partners in life, it can be marriage or business relationship. If one is more dominant, more integrated, more connected to the self, the other is dependent. This one shifts out, separates, and this one is in panic. I've gone through many coaching processes with clients that lost the partner who cheated on them. This is the preliminary condition for cheating, because when this person feels that this one is connected to yourself, this one becomes a trickster. Now let's go back to Jung and see how Jung is telling us this. I hope you see what I see. If you give up on yourself, you leave it in others. Thereby, you become selfish to others, dependent. And thus, as a result, you start cheating the others. And the last and least quotation. I want to read to you what is this? Yeah, no, I'm looking for the anima and animus. Look at this. This is a quotation about persona. You wear the mask of a devil, a frightful one, the mask of the banal, of eternal mediocrity, mediocre. Is the struggle with this mask worthwhile? Was the mask of God worth worshipping? Jung understood that most people are condemned. Remember, it's a person that lived before the First World War in the previous century, during the Second World War. This text was written when the Austro-Hungarian Empire dictated all Europe and all Russia, because they got married there with the Tsars. People saw the Caesar or the emperor and followed the rules. Individuality was very underdeveloped. So Jung is protesting against the norm, against this mask that you are so fearful of. But this mask is banal, it's fake, it's the opposite. You know that in 1975, Donald Winnicott in London developed the concepts of true self and false self. Back in 1913, already this genius Jung is telling us, is it worthwhile? Is it worthwhile to create an artificial God and worship it? So I want to thank you so much for joining this webinar. I hope I gave you some appetite. I'm with another bunch of quotations that we can do some other time. Write to me whether you're interested, whether it's inspiring you, whether it opens up practical issues in your studios, in your offices. And I'm here to cheer you up and share my wisdom with you. The Red Book is going to be part of the Jungian Coaching Club, and we can really make a monthly reading together even, and have a Zoom interactive and not one-sidedly. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, our second generation of the online program starts on the 14th of October. Still, you can grab the early bird prize and join the first module in October 14th. Another webinar with live supervision. 4 people will get supervision with the Jungian coaching tools on September 22nd. And very soon you will get the graduates a questionnaire to screen your interest in a Jungian coaching club. Thank you so much. I hate to say go. The answer is no, baby, it's cold outside. Thank you so much. Kalispera sas. Good evening.